Hi all. Right, body had to go back on again just to confirm the last few things before I order the shock absorbers. One was the position of the shock tower that sits under here. Had to incline the shocks more vertical. It's going to be an interesting bracket to put the shock onto. It's not going to push directly into the chassis. It's going to have to have a pull and a push moment. So what I mean by that, instead of having a nice linear path up here, it's going to be quite horizontal to that point, but it means it gets the shock more vertical, gives me more travel on the shock for the same stroke. 100mm stroke was going to give me about 65mm stroke on the shock. Obviously, the more you camp the shock down, the less travel you end up in the shock. The less travel in the shock, the harder it is to try and control the movement. The more movement you have, it's easier to control. That's basically the thing. So anyway, dropping the body back on, obviously I have to do a little bit more of alignment. There's a few things out of the notch, because we've got structure now in the back of the car. We've got all the tubes and such that come up to the back. We have the top and bottom wishbones at the back, and all the structure around it. So obviously the two bars on this side of this joint here, they are seamless, so they're 83 thou seamless. On this side, these two bars really just hold this cup, so basically holds a bolt and double shear. It just seemed nice to have both on again, but these two are ERW because they're just holding the bolt and double shear. Those are the more structural ones, all bolted directly to the gearbox, of course. The bottom piece here is bolted directly to the plate that's doing the bottom wishbone point, but it leaves me 4 holes spare. How dark it is in this camera, I can't see anything. Leaves me 4 holes spare there. Now at the top, I've actually got a 1/4" aluminium spacer at the moment between the plate and the gearbox. The reason being is the spacer will come out, and we'll probably end up with a 1/4" thick plate that will come out, and that will mount the rear wing on. So you can imagine there'll be a plate coming across here that will come up to mount the rear wing, and I need somewhere to mount it, so I'll be mounting it on these 4 bolts here, and I'll sandwich it behind this one as well to get to it. So yes, lad asked the actual question of what's in here. Well, it's obviously bolted through from there into a threaded joint at the back, same as the front. It's a threaded joint here. Bit awkward to see, but they are spherical bearing units, or spherical bearing carriers. These are the ones you normally buy. If we look at that, it's not very wide here. These are the spherical bearings. They're a 3/4 hole in the unit here, and I sleeve these down to 5/8 bolts. You don't really need a 5 bolt, and obviously that sits inside your spherical carrier. Now, I wanted some of these a little slightly wider, which basically makes it easier for me to come in with a 1-inch tube at an angle. To meet this, that's only about 20mm or 22mm, so I wanted some that were about 1.5 inches to 2 inches wide, so it basically makes it a lot easier for me to mount the suspension from it. And as I use an oversized spherical bearing in there, just to give me more surface area and basically a bigger bearing, but then sleeved it down to a smaller bolt hole, which I have there. Okay, so that's what's inside the 2 top wishbone points. The 1 point here and the 1 point there, they're both spherical bearings. So this is a extremely large joint. It's a 5/8 hole rod end, but it's actually a 3/4 inch UNF threaded bolt. It makes for a very strong single point mounting. And obviously this is just your toe, your toe in, toe out. But anyway, now reason for putting the body back on was really the last one, was obviously to mount the rockers onto the rear suspension. So we'll be making a theoretical point here that will triangulate to down here, down there, and down there. So we'll basically have a pyramid, and then that pyramid will push the shock absorber, which will be mounted on top of the gearbox. Now, I've got a definitive measurement now. I can clearly have 280mm from the center of this joint up to the top of the bodywork, still have 5 or 10mm clearance. So put that into the CAD drawing. Did a few simulations to see exactly where I want to put the rocker. Obviously want to make sure that I don't go past 90 degrees on the shock absorber, because then it stops to become rising rate. But did all the calculations, and I've got the shock length for the rear now and the shock length for the front. Dialed in the PDF that Nitron shock absorbers gave me, and you can actually build a shock absorber, a virtual shock absorber, with their PDF stuff. Just alter all the different ends, different body lengths, different piston lengths, and whether you want any spacers and stuff inside it to get exactly the dimension you want. So that's all sorted now, so hopefully we'll be ordering the shocks next week. Won't pick off the list. So yeah, body on. Body's starting to make a little bit more sense as far as fit and finish is concerned. Spoke to the kind gentleman in BC that sold us the body, and he's given me a couple of dimensions today, which is cool, from here basically to the other side, and various from there. So I've got a rough idea. Previously I did think that the body panels would go underneath the chassis. Obviously I'm incorrect. This is designed to be sitting on top of a plate. So the steel floor plate will do it, will extend the steel floor plate 1.5 inches to 2 inches either side, and then we can go down onto the steel floor. So obviously it does go underneath. It doesn't go underneath, it sits on top of the panel there. Well, that's the way it's going to go on this version. Overall the car should be 78 inches wide. Now my build bench is 80 inches. I did it on purpose, 1 inch wider than the car at the side. Makes it nice and easy to confirm dimensions off the edge, basically. We squared all these up with a oh god, I can't think, a huge table saw my friend has. So these are all diagonally perfectly square. Now the wheel arches point to point are about 78, and when you dial in a level from here up to there, you're 1 inch in this side, you're 1 inch out, you're 1 inch in that side. Now looking at the bodywork, kind of, it's hard to see I suppose, but we are roughly 1 inch in just about most of the places down there. The body should be reasonably flat. It's not, because I think it's sagged in a few places, and maybe the molds might have moved a little bit as well, so it's kind of thin fiberglass in places, so it just wants to move. Really does need a lot of support. This area here is not too bad on this side. A bit of flaring here, but it's nothing we can't pull back in with a frame. We're going to build on the inside, and we'll just suck it into the frame. Sill section, apart from here, does dive into the wheel, so it does actually have a it does go further into the body at this point, and does that on both sides. But we are 78 here, and we're 78 there, and we're 78 there. Where we're not 78 is it's a little bit too wide there, and there it's about 1 inch too wide. So this profile here, so either this profile here has just splayed. It's just where it's been not sat where it should be. It's obviously just splayed out. All the rear body section has, and I said that side's not so bad, but this side it's not so good. You can see basically here we're okay, but here we flare out quite a bit. So this has got a definite bit of that going on and a bit of that going on. It's nothing I can't correct. Damn, it's fiberglass. It's just going to be fun. You possibly have to put a small corrective cut in here, pull it in where it should be, and then just reglass it. You know, it's going to be one or two things. Like I say, it's either the molds have moved a little bit and it's a bit further out, or what's probably more likely is the body itself. Where it's been sat on the floor, it's just naturally sagged and opened out a little bit. Even this corner here is probably about 10mm out from where it was before. You know, 10mm on a race body really is nothing, I suppose. I've seen some worse kit cars, I'm sure, but it's making a little bit more sense of how it is. Obviously we've got this rise here as well. It comes up to there and back down again, but We just got to do a couple of cuts, pull it back in. The majority of the areas, the wheel arch, where there's actually a lot of structure, where there's actually a lot of curves and a lot of returns, the body stayed okay, which is what it's kind of makes sense. Like the front clip. The front clip's got a lot of curvature on it to it, a lot of extra panels, and this is pretty good. It needs quite a bit of blocking, but you know, it's fiberglass. It's just those side sections there, because they're very flat and they're not that thick, you know, 2-3 mil thick, which is kind of what you want anyway. You don't want to be too heavy, but if they do just want to pull, which is going to be a fun day. But now I've got a dimension from here, so thank you, Derek, for that. I've got a starting point, and if realistically I need somewhere to start and then work my way out. For obviously we've got the wheelbase dialed in, so we're good on that, but I need a width dimension to be 100% sure that everything else is going to be okay, i.e. the doors and everything else. I don't really want to be altering the doors if I don't have to. Obviously it's a pretty intricate shape. I'd sooner have the door as the datum and move the body to that. So yeah, that's going to be some fun soon. So I've got to build all the frame that comes out to it. So I'll put the floor on, so I can tack this to the floor, and then I'll start building the frame. The frame obviously will attach all to here to hold that in. Front, like, well, not quite so much, I don't think, realistically. The bodywork itself attaching to the side